Well, nominated for a Critics' Choice Award for his work on the vampire mockumentary series What We Do in the Shadows, Harvey Guillen is now sinking his teeth into the new horror comedy film Werewolves Within.
I know, Devin. He probably came in here for safety, so he's probably in here, right?
Devin?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, I won't do that.
Devin, baby! Stop! Devin! Baby, is that you?
Wait.
Baby!
Wait. You said strong. Now you're dead.
Wait.
Hey, Harvey, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
So good, especially after watching this movie. Like, this was just what I needed. It's so much fun. It is laugh out loud funny. And it's actually based on a video game. I didn't know that until I started researching it. So for people who are not familiar with this story, tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so Werewolves Within is a comedy whodunit based on the video game by Ubisoft. And it basically revolves around a small town that has a new pipeline going through it, and the voting has to take place to either yay or nay it. So basically you find out what's important to people and their own desires and mission to get that reality to flourishing. So we all have a werewolf within us, and we just find out who's the biggest werewolf.
Right. And I love how this unfolds. Love this ensemble. Like, when you all come together, it is just hilarity. I mean, I'm just giggling in my mind right now. There are just so many laugh out loud funny moments. But before we talk about your character, just talk about this cast and just all of you all coming together. How much fun was that?
I mean, right? This cast is so talented and so funny. It's just every day on set, you read the script so you know ahead of time what the story's going to be, but you don't know. You don't know until you get to set, because the story's there, but then everyone sprinkles their own little magic and their own little ad lib and their own personality to these characters. And just to be next to these people like Michaela and Mills and Sam and George, and I could just go on and on. The list of this cast is so talented that it was like going to camp every day, really, comedy camp.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I would imagine that. You talk about, just ad libs and things like that. Were there moments where it was just hard to get through a scene?
Yeah, there was definitely moments. I just recall a moment with the George and his character. Just for me, it's so different than his character. And so when he's in character and he says certain things, I just couldn't help it. It was just so funny. He has this twang to the way he says the lines, and he's like, yeah, I'm pros, just like the way that he delivers a line would make me crack. And unfortunately we have to do it again. And then I do something and then would make Cheyenne, laugh, and then vice versa. So that's the best day at work, when you can just have fun and you're going to get the scene, but it's also nice to have fun in the moment and live, so it was really wonderful with this cast.
Yeah, you and Cheyenne were so cute together. Have you all worked together before?
We haven't. We have never worked together. And it was so funny because the director, Josh, asked me, who do you think, should play your partner in this? And I was like, someone like Cheyenne Jackson, and he's like, okay. They went out to Cheyenne and he read the script and, loved it, and then met him for the first time. Such a talent, so talented, so funny. And, I'm a musical theater kid. So growing up, I was just like, oh my God, Cheyenne. And so now he plays my husband. So dreams come true.
I know. So tell me a little bit more about your character. I just can't. So
Joaquin is, married to Cheyenne Jackson's character, and they're well off. They moved in from the city. My backstory is that I moved in, with him, and we opened a yoga studio in this small town, and we are the only queer couple in town, and it's a very small town. So people whisper and talk, and it's just kind of a mirror at society as well. It's like sometimes. Yeah. The unknown is what what terrifies you. So it's the unknown that's out there, but it's just like we're a community. We're meant to live together, and by dialogue and conversating with each other, that's how we get to know each other, And so I love that storyline with Cheyenne that we bring to the screen together, because the real question is, when you look in the mirror, are you a werewolf? Are you, are you the monster?
That's so funny. Now for you, of course, you said this takes place in a really, really small town with a lot of really peculiar people. The whole small town thing, is that part of your upbringing, or was this something that you kind of had to adapt and wrap your head around for this?
I actually moved around a lot when I was little, so it actually felt very familiar. I lived in small towns in Southern California. My dad worked for a construction company, so we actually moved for the first probably like 5 years of schooling. I moved to a different school every year because the company would be like, this city we're building, and then we're moving to this city. And it was just like a vaudeville show. You go to the small town. I remember living in Hesperia, which is the high desert, and it was your next door neighbor was like a mile and a half down the road. So like you didn't have
Wow.
you like literally were isolated. You would go to your backyard. It was just like wind blowing and not a sound of traffic, nothing, which is really peaceful and nice.
Yeah.
But not so much fun when you're little because you're like, well, here we are. So like you created your own fun. So I remember me and my dog had a lot of adventures in the desert, and we built a tree house. But it was nice looking back to have that upbringing where you're not like, with noises of the city and like the dangers of that. So it was nice to go back to revisit that life.
That encourages you as a kid, especially to use your imagination, right?
I think that's why I ended up being an actor.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, small town.
Thank you, small town.
So this is a horror comedy. And of course, so many people love comedy. People love horror. It's nice to see them come together in this way. I mean, I love horrors. So I love just being, terrified. But I love it when there's this balance of comedy where you can, it all just comes together. Why do you think they blend together so well, horror and comedy?
That's a really great question. I think they blend so well is because, the comedy allows you to drop your guard. So the comedy really allows you to breathe into it and just say, I'm in for the ride, it's going to be fun. Just have a good time. It's when you go into a horror film that you just know it's going to be horror nonstop. You're always cringing. You're waiting for the next thing to happen and you just like, don't let go. And so with comedy, you allow yourself to just let go of it. You're like, okay, and then you like, once you drop your guard is when something happens. And that's the fun part. That's what it's meant to be. You're meant to be at the edge of your seat, but relax, enjoy the ride. Don't be so tense that you can't even enjoy the story.
I know, that's so true. All right, well, from werewolves to vampires, we got to ask about what we do in the shadows. Who do you think's the better villain, vampires or werewolves?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Well, I just find myself that it's weirdly enough that I end up hunting both of them.
Okay.
I'm just like always on the lookout for we're looking for werewolves, who's the werewolf in this movie? And we're looking, and what we do in the shadows, I'm now, it's in my lineage, I am a vampire killer. So it's kind of funny that I find myself being at odds with werewolves and vampires, but I don't know, it's so tricky because, werewolves have that like massive power that can shred you in one, shred, but also vampires have the hypnotizing, they can suck your life out, they can turn you into a vampire. So there's a lot of layers to vampire that and a resume looks great. It's like when you go home and you take like, a significant other, and on paper, a vampire looks great. But in person, if you're at a bar and someone gets in a fight, you want the werewolf to just take care of the problem.
Right. I love that. Are you a purist when it comes to, these characters or, these creatures, I should say, because like I love vampires especially. And so I love how with depending on what the project is, they have different abilities, you know what I mean? And it changes. Are you a purist when it comes to that, the way that they're killed, whether or not they can go into the sunlight, things like that?
I mean, on Shadows, we're very specific. I know Jermaine is very like, they can't do this, they can't do that. Like there's been history written about these characters, and we want to honor what has been already set in stone, with a little bit of flexibility, where like maybe we find a loophole or something. But obviously we do like to keep it as much as consistency as possible, because otherwise people would be like, well, that's not real. And it's like, we're talking about vampires, like, it's like, how real do you think, it's just like, well, no, they sleep in, and it's like, okay, we'll have it sleep in the
fans love you from what we do in the shadows. You were nominated for a Critics' Choice Award. You were even a Jeopardy clue. Like, has all of this settled in for you? Are you still enjoying all of it?
No, it's not settled in, and also with the year that we've had, just coming out back into like normality or whatever that is, it's just, it hasn't hit me yet, because it's been like trying to create the content and put the show back on the air. Obviously the fans have been craving it, especially what we just, went through. So it's been work for the last year. And now realizing, oh yeah, people are sending me stuff from Jeopardy. I was like, I'm a question on Jeopardy?
That's huge.
Like I mean, all like my, college professors were through the moon. They're like, you're on Jeopardy. And I was like, I didn't know that I was going to be on it. It was everyone else telling me, like, so it's funny to be the last to find out.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. It's like, whether it's family or friends or fans who just let you know, it's like, did you know? And then like they tag me on something. I'm like, oh my gosh. And just so grateful. Thank you so much to all the fans who have been so supportive and making Guillermo. Yeah, you're right. Guillermo was voted the favorite character, and I was like, what? Like, it's like we started with like Guillermo in season 1 of being submissive and the servant, and now to be this like badass, it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, huge cliffhanger the end of last season, Guillermo slaying all the vampires. I mean, all of them. I mean, come on. What's it been like for you to see the transition of Guillermo?
It's been fantastic, just to see the evolution of it. And, it's just amazing. Just where you drop your guard again, watching this character in this first season, people were like, oh yeah, he's there, he's fun. He just the servant. And it's like, no, don't sleep on the servant. It's just like, don't sleep on the familiar. It's like, it's the second you drop your guard is when you find out something really impressive. But also the clues were always there. We knew his last name was De la Cruz, which translates in Spanish of the cross. So all these clues were in there that people were like, and they're like, oh, and it's like, we told you, we sprinkled it in. And so, and also getting to play the action, hero who is a badass and kicking some vampire butt and stuff. It's so great, specifically because you don't get to see a person of size, a person of color, and a queer character do all of these at once. And so it's very empowering. And I get a lot of kids and youth who are like, I never saw myself represented on television. I see you and I see myself. And so I feel like I can do anything. And that's where the work for me, just comes to full circle.
I love that. I love that. Can you tell us anything about season 3?
Okay, well, just between you and I, we will be picking up where we left off. We will be getting some visits from someone's ex-girlfriend who I'm not too happy about. We will be celebrating someone's 100th birthday, Colin Robinson's 100th birthday, and we will be seeing some sirens this season. So you heard it first.
Okay, you're dropping gems. Thank you. I love that. All right, well, in non-Munster news, you were a delight on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. You have a background, as you said, in musical theater. So how was it getting to showcase that talent on this show? It's such a great show.
Such a great show. It's so wonderful and it has such heart, and the cast is so talented and so welcoming. I remember they offered me to do the role twice and we had to turn it down because scheduling conflict. I couldn't do it. And I broke my heart the first time. It broke my heart the second time. They checked on the third time, and third time's a charm. They checked back and said, are you absolutely sure? Because the creator, wrote this and has you in mind for it and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, no, I want to do it. It's just like, can't the schedule. And at the last minute, as things always do in Hollywood, things shift and schedules. And we moved the scheduling for Shadows into a later window. And so it allowed me to this short window to actually film. So I think I got the last call on a Wednesday and they were like, can you do it? And I was like, yes, I can actually do it. And I was on a plane on a Thursday. And I was in Vancouver and quarantined 14 days and then started production. And Mandy Moore, the choreographer, sent me the videos of like, here's your choreography. I'll work with you when you're out of quarantine. And I mean, what a way to also exit the first season, George had to do with singing Britney Spears Stronger, which I never thought I would say, I get to sing Stronger on a television show and dance to it. So it was actually absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Well, speaking of that and musical theater, with your background, could we see you on Broadway in the future? Any dream roles you want to manifest?
I want to manifest it all, like all the Broadway shows. That was my goal, was to be on Broadway. So I actually went to school for musical theater and I was like, oh yeah, on Broadway. And it's like, due to the current times, it's going to take us a second to get back into everything that Broadway is so magical and brings to, people's lives. But I absolutely in a heartbeat would love to do Broadway. So maybe I'll be seeing you in New York soon.
I would love that. And now when you do it this way, they'll be coming to you with roles. Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that?
You're absolutely right. It's a different avenue, right? It's a different avenue. I did all the cattle calls and showing up at 5 a.m. in a snowstorm, trying to get an audition to play something. And it's tough. No, I've always said the toughest performers are the people who do 8 shows a week. People who have to do Broadway are the toughest performers. They have to sing vocally, like dance, act, twice on Wednesdays and twice on Sundays. And, that adds up. And just like you must have the stamina and body, like just to keep going. And so I have such honor to like, praise the people who work on Broadway. It's just like I praise them, absolutely.
I love that. All right. Well, I want to let everybody know that Werewolves Within hits theaters on June 25th and will be on demand starting on July 2nd. Harvey, it is a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great.